good morning, Coasties, and welcome. Welcome to Rhema CC. Welcome to the start of yet another week. It is Sunday morning, so you are well and truly, the old is gone, the new is about to begin. And isn't that a great philosophy for starting our day each week? Each day, all of that actually. That was a bit confusing. I confused myself when I said that, but anyway, guys, we were just listening to Love Unleashed by Abel Chungu. It is a pretty spectacular time of the year, isn't it? I have to say, Easter is one of those special times that we as a Christian faith, those of us who happen to have the faith, who live our life as best as we can, coming from a Christian perspective, Easter is a time for us to obviously be thankful for what, God has provided for us in terms of just our freedom and our ability to know Him and to know that He has planned everything beautifully so that we can know Him so intimately. But it's also a time for us to really sort of check in. It's time for us to kind of, I guess you could say, if you think old school, you're clocking on and going, all right, it's time to clock in and work out what I'm supposed to be doing today. Getting on path and working out why we believe the things that we do, working out, what sort of responses we would give to those who ask us why we believe the things that we do. It's a good time for us to really focus on that, to prayerfully consider how we are going to respond. Because there are questions. People do have questions, and I actually believe, and I have heard that there's a bit of a movement happening. I'm hoping it hits our shores pretty wildly before too long. But you do hear across the world, there's this yearning and there's this need to ask questions. And I think asking questions is a beautiful way for us to learn about anything. So Christianity, we need to have our own understanding of why we believe the things that we do. And we're actually going to explore that a bit today by looking at the Easter story, looking at the fact that Jesus, obviously, He sacrificed everything He could. It was laid down for us. And the final breath that He took, it was not a moment of just, complete and utter despair. Obviously for Him it would have been beyond horrendous, but it was a moment that was a game changer for all of us, and it's the reason that we can stand firm in our faith, because that was not the end for Him, and that means for us that whatever we're facing, it's not the end. He's got, He's bigger than what we think is the end. Obviously, that's simplifying a lot of what I'm, the bigger story that we think about Easter, but we're talking today about. I'm going to spin it a little bit. I remember last year I was talking to you guys and I had said that I love to look at the context of stories in the Bible. I love to look at all different perspectives. So I got to thinking about what to do for this week, and I thought, you know what, there is some stuff there that we can explore from a different perspective. And we're going to. And I won't go in too deeply, but I would just say that it's really encouraging when you can start to apply it to your everyday. And that's where we're going to go. We're going to explore, how do we take the sometimes they can be black and white words that we read in the Bible. Sometimes they can sit and you can kind of be reading stuff and thinking, I am just reading, but to be able to look at the words and apply them to really understand them, to grasp them fully, is some powerful stuff. And then to be able to apply it to our everyday life I think it gives us purpose. And actually that's what we're talking about today is purpose. So I'm going to leave it there for a bit, guys. But yeah, honestly, it's a big one. So buckle up. Let's do this. Let's have some fun together. All right. See you guys soon. And that was Cochrane and Co. With Parking Lot. Welcome back, guys. You're waking up really to a Sunday morning on Rhema CC. And I happen to be thankful I get to do this with you. It's really cool. It's a joy. So thanks for having me. Not much else I can say other than I love it. It's awesome. Thanks for having me. Guys, I am Lindy, and I hang out with you guys each Sunday morning if you're new to Rhema. Love to have you on board anytime you are around, and you might just be cruising through the coast at the moment. Maybe you're just hanging, maybe you're up for the holidays. If you are, I do hope that you have a fantastic time while you're up here, down here, whichever way you're coming, doesn't really matter. But the coast has got lots to offer. So make the most of the opportunity just to take in nature. It's a pretty spectacular place. And I think the way that we do life here on the coast is pretty special too. It's a lot more cruisy than a lot of parts of the nation, I think. That's my personal opinion, so I could be wrong, but yeah, it's a different way of doing things. I know that moving from Sydney, it was a big. My parents even saw it in me. They're like, oh yeah, there's a different sort of drive. It's just like I can breathe a bit. So if you are from one of the cities, whether it's Sydney, whether it's Melbourne, maybe from somewhere else in Australia, take a moment and breathe, because my goodness, it is awesome to be able to breathe that salt air in, and to just breathe that natural, just the beautiful breeze, the ocean breeze, yeah, anyway, make the most of it. I'm already thinking about it while I'm sitting here, but yeah. Hope you can have a special time while you are here with us, if you happen to be just holidaying. And if you're not, if you are a regular, if you are a coastie and you often hear what is happening here on Rhema, welcome. Welcome to another start to another day. And what a gift that is, isn't it? It really is. Guys, we are, actually, no, before I get started, before I lose my train of thought, I have to just bring attention to something that I know I'm going to overlook otherwise. Now, our legacy builders. So we've been talking, obviously, over the last little bit about what a legacy builder is, but I want to go a bit further. You might be wondering why legacy builders are so important. And honestly, you might have been asking why you should consider becoming one. Well, if we think about it this way, if you become a legacy builder giving, say, just $3 a day, in round numbers, that becomes about $100 a month, and that's $1,000 less that we need here at Rhema CC to raise through our major appeals each year. So if we have 100 people, that becomes, if we have 100 people at $3 a day legacy builder type thing, that's a massive $100,000 less that has to come in through appeals. So it all adds up, and obviously that would make a big difference. Big is an understatement. It would be a huge difference. We're trying to reduce our reliance on big appeals and instead have a more even and sustainable income right throughout the year. So Legacy Builders is part of that. And while your regular giving builds a legacy for future generations, it also makes the present easier for us as well. I know not everyone can commit to $100 a month. Now, there's a possibility that maybe you can do 50, maybe you can do 30. It's really up to you. We'd love for you to become a legacy builder today. So if you can, if you're willing, give us a call on 43674042 or visit rhema.cc. We'd love to have your support, and we thank you for that. All right, back to business, guys. Before I lose my train of thought yet again, it happens. It does happen. You'd think that by now, having 7 kids, I'd be a bit more together, but no, I do tend to lose my train of thought, which... yeah, all those open tabs. Can you guys relate? I don't know if you can or not, but yeah. Anyway, guys, so we're actually talking about purpose. We're talking about the need for purpose. Now, why do I say this? Well, let me just give you a little bit of a background story. This week I was chatting to someone, it was a friend, who came in to see us at Hope Cottage. I was doing some work and I'd been thinking about what to do this week because I thought it is Sunday. It's the Easter Sunday, the Sunday before Easter Sunday, so Palm Sunday if you like. And I thought I don't really know where to go. I don't really know what to talk about, but I was sitting on the idea of purpose. And my buddy Michelle listens every chance she gets. She always, every time she sees me, she says, "Oh, I've been listening to your podcast while I've been doing my work. I put it on so I can just get my work done." And I'm thinking, oh, thank you. You're probably the only person on the coast. Anyway, but I love Michelle and she's a great support. So, yes, Michelle, thank you for your words of affirmation. Anyway, yeah. But I talked to her. I said, "What do you think I should talk about this week, Michelle?" I said, "I was thinking about talking about purpose." And she's like, "Yep, do it." So if this goes badly, you can all blame Michelle. But I don't think when we're talking about scripture, really, there's not a lot that we can go wrong with. We're talking about God's purpose for us. I think there's not a lot that we can get wrong in that either. Why do I bring up purpose? Well, I look at Jesus. I look at the fact that he knew he was born for a purpose. And every day of his life was ticking one day closer to fulfilling the ultimate purpose. That was for all of us. Now, that's a big concept in itself. There was purpose in his birth. There was purpose in the prophecies that took place before his birth, even if we look at that. we look at that being foretold. This guy is going to come. This baby is going to come. There was so many in terms of Old Testament prophecies. If you don't know what prophecy is, it's kind of like a foretelling or something that people believe God has told them. It's a message of things to be aware of what's to come, or situations to be a little bit more guarded with, or to use more wisdom with. It can come in lots of different forms, but that's a generalization of what prophecy can look like. And there were plenty of prophecies about Jesus before he even came on the earth. But then we look at Jesus. He was born into the world. He fulfilled those prophecies, and then he knew every day was going to be one day closer to fulfilling the ultimate purpose that God had designed for him. For his every day was one day closer to knowing that he would be struck from all sorts of angles, and he would be beaten, and he would be taken through absolutely horrendous things for the purpose. The purpose is what we're talking about today. The purpose of seeing us understand and be able to have a relationship with God without having to work hard like they had to in the Old Testament. This is where it gets really hard, because there's so much in it. If you're talking to someone who has no understanding of the faith at all, there is so much to be able to, you've got to try and explain without explaining. It gets tricky. But we look at Jesus and the fact that he knew he had purpose. Before he came along, you look at the sacrifice of animals and how things were that way. They needed to sacrifice to be able to get that clean slate with God. Well, Jesus became that. He was God's gift to the world. And it says in John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son. So that's Jesus. Jesus was the perfect son. That whoever believes in him, so that can be us. If you don't have that faith yourself today, it can be you. If it is you guys, if you happen to have that faith, it's you. That whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. That is the whole context of Christianity. God loved us so much that he sent his only son. And his son, Jesus, the purpose for his life was to lay it down for us. To become what, he broke tradition. He's what they once knew as having to use their perfect animals, or the best animals they could offer as a sacrifice, to have a way of saying to God, I give it all to you. It was done. Jesus decided to do it for us instead. And that purpose was before he was even a physical being. That purpose was while he was here, and that purpose continues today. I want to apply that same principle to our own lives. And I don't want to take the eyes off Jesus. I don't want to take our eyes off him. I don't mean to do that, and I've got to be very careful with how I do this, because I'm not meaning to do that in any way. But I want to apply that same principle back to our own lives. What are we living for? What are we here for? Why are we doing the things that we're doing? That's what we're going to today. I'm going to ask the big questions. I'm going to drive hard. I'm going to shake things up. I'm probably going to tread on some toes, and I don't mean to do that insensitively. I don't mean to do it disrespectfully. I'm asking the questions. What is our purpose? Why are we doing the things that we're doing? Anyway, guys, I'll leave it there for a bit, and I'm going to keep going. While we're listening to music and whatever else, I'm going to be sitting on this. I'm going to be asking myself some big questions. I'm going to be asking the things. Why do we do the things that we do? And are we doing it for God, ultimately? Are we doing those things for him? Anyway, I'm going to hold that there. I will be back before too long, and I'll see you then. And that was In My Blood by Joel Smallbone. Good morning, guys. Welcome to Rhema again. It is awesome to have you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you're having a beautiful week, guys. I'm Lindy. I'm your Sunday morning host here. And today is Palm Sunday, for those of you who know what Palm Sunday is. If not, get that Bible out. Have a bit of a read. You're able to explore that some more. We can explore that daily. I actually bought a new Bible this week. It was confession time. I went in to go and buy my husband a new Bible. I thought, he hasn't had one for a long time. I might get him a new one. Went in, and I didn't actually get him one, but I bought myself one. So that's the next best thing, isn't it? But I can read it to him. Let's go with that. I don't know how much he's into the women's Bibles, but we can be resourceful. It's the same stuff. It's just, got a bit of a twist to women. Not the actual Bible, but the stuff that goes along with it. Anyway, yeah, pull out your Bible. If you're wondering what Palm Sunday is, have a good look into that. I won't go into that today because we're not exploring Palm Sunday. We are talking about Easter from a different slant because we are a week out from Easter, obviously, Easter Sunday. Obviously, we have got a lot of things happening on the coast here for Easter, the whole Easter weekend. And yeah, definitely get involved if you are around. It would be awesome for you to attend church services, get behind your local church. Just turn up. Sometimes that means a lot to those who are doing the hard work behind the scenes. I know we're actually doing a what do you call it? Sunrise service. We do it every year for our church, and it's a combined church. We do it out at the beach at Nora Head, and there's a few churches that get involved. More than welcome to come. I'll just throw that out there. I'm just throwing it out there. But yeah, it's a beautiful way to start Easter Sunday, just to watch the sunrise together and just, if you're not doing it up there, then find somewhere else on the coast to do it if you can. It's just spend some time with God as the sun rises. It is perfect. It's a way to be thankful. Highly recommend it. Yes. Anyway, as I said, get behind your churches and just speak to your pastors, speak to your ministers, and just affirm them. They need to hear that encouragement every so often that, hey, I'm here, I've got your back, and I support you, and thank you for what you're doing. I say that, myself, I just want to say thank you to the pastors that are out there, those who are working behind the scenes, who, it's, one of those jobs that I think no one ever really knows until, I guess it's like with everything, but it's one of those jobs that it can be a hit of all of it, or it can be nothing. So it's a bit of a strange one, but yeah, get behind your pastors this Easter if you can. Anyway, guys, that has derailed completely from where I was going to go. We're talking about purpose today. We're talking about, what is the purpose? Now, how does that go with the Easter story? Well, you look at Jesus. You look at the fact that he knew from the time he was a baby, he was born for a purpose. Now, I've been watching, I think is it the Son of David? I think that's it's on Prime, I think. I can't tell you, but it's one of those shows that I have been really hooked into. I haven't really watched much of The Chosen because I just I haven't had the time to be able to sit and just watch. But the one that I have, it really grabbed me, The Son of David, because I'm pretty sure I have to double check, but it's, The House of David, sorry, not The Son of David. Don't know what that is. The House of David. But yeah, no, it's based on his life and how, just how things evolved from a scriptural perspective. And obviously it's just that way of looking and examining, how God played things out, how he's played out, even down to the fact that Jesus came after David and generations after, really. I don't know, it's so big. There's just so much to comprehend. But it got me thinking about the whole concept of purpose and how we are born with a purpose. Now, Jesus knew his purpose before he even really grew in to understand what that was. Like as in what we would think or comprehend as biologically being able to comprehend and understand. He knew he was born for a reason, and the reason ultimately was that he was going to have big stuff placed on him. He was going to lose his life through torture. He was going to be mocked and just put through the most horrendous experiences based on people just hating him just because he was, probably because he was different, but also because he was God's son, and they couldn't comprehend it. Like, this is just, how could you say that? That's just blasphemy. And in fact, he is God's son. But we ourselves can be challenged on that. I sat in a job interview last week, and I hate job interviews. Personally, I find them really, really hard. I've never been very good with tests at school. I was always awful with tests. And job interviews, I kind of go, it's like my brain just locks up, like, I don't know what to say here. I can't answer anything. But I was asked some questions that then I really retreated from. I felt like I just don't know what to do with this. I don't know where to go. I just feel like such an idiot sitting here right now. And I drove out of the school gate that day. They were beautiful, beautiful people. But I drove out myself and thought, how am I ever supposed to answer those questions when I don't do things like that? I can't give the answers of specific details of how I do it. Now, if we use counselling as an example, If I went for a job interview as a counsellor, they would ask me what sort of modalities I might be using. And they might ask me about, certain theories that they like to bring into it. And for me, I can honestly say I can study the stuff, but when it comes down to it, I just do what I just believe God is leading me to do in that moment. Now, if you're not someone of the faith, that sounds like the most crazy response ever. Like, you can't just do what you just think you're supposed to be doing. Like, there's no, it's almost like there's no science to it. And it is hard to live with purpose when you're going like that. When you're living like, it's a bit of a tricky one, because you feel like your way of doing things is wrong, but yet there's this pull inside of you that says, no, there's this, I'm being driven by what I believe God is leading me to do. Now, that brought me back to the whole story of Jesus. How many times must people have not got him? How many times must people have just gone, I don't know who this guy is. He's a loon. His way of doing things just doesn't make any sense to us. And yet he kept pushing forward. Jesus kept pushing forward anyway. He kept living out his purpose. He kept changing things. He kept flipping tables when they needed to be flipped. He kept standing up for the little guy when the little guy needed someone to stand up for him. He kept, when it came down to wisdom, when it came to even things like the casting of the stones, where he was able to use wisdom and mindset and determination to confront the actions of those he was working with or amongst. And to just simply say to them, well, whoever's without sin, then you can cast the first stone. He used wisdom in a world that just didn't make sense. Where am I going with this? My point, I think, that I'm trying to say here is that sometimes we're not going to make sense. When we're living the purpose that God wants us to live, when he calls us to something and we're trying to live it out, it's not always going to make sense to other people. And that's hard, because you question it yourself. You question your own sanity. You question your own ability to process what your purpose is. Maybe you are the crazy one. Maybe if you could just shrink and become something else that everyone wants you else to, they want you to be. But God's calling us to be the version of ourselves that he wants us to be. And that may mean that we might look foolish from time to time. That may mean that we look like we don't make any sense. Even to other Christians, my goodness, if I think about the times that my kids or my husband have looked at me like, what are you doing? You're crazy. And then, weeks or months down the track, they'll turn around and say, oh, that's actually really, I'm glad you did that, because, we've just got to be able to just listen and support each other when we have the crazy ideas, or when our ways or strategies don't make sense to the rest of the world. There are things that we as a people of faith need to be open to, that, when we are very aware of our purpose in God, sometimes the things we're called to are not going to make sense to other people. Sometimes the way that we do that is not going to make sense to people. And yet it doesn't matter, because if we look at Jesus, we look at what he did, the way he lived, he's a game changer. He gives us context. He puts context into our everyday life. And he shakes things up. When we get to know him and how he did things, when we get to speak to him through the Holy Spirit, we speak to him. It puts purpose in our life that we don't otherwise have. It is a really big one, guys, and it's going to take a lot for each of us to get our head around. As I'm talking to you this morning, I'm still trying to work it out myself. I'm still trying to work out what it all means. I probably won't get there, but I just think we need to be very mindful of our purpose, and not to shrink it down to what other people think that we should be living, or how we should be doing things. We've got to follow God in, our whole being. We need to throw ourselves before God and say, show me what you created me for. What am I designed for? What do you want me to do with this? And prayerfully, can you help me get through those moments where people are staring at me going, that makes no sense. Why are you doing it like that? Because it is lonely, it's isolating when we choose to do things a God way. Anyway, I'll say no more about that, because that is a reality, and it could just take me on a whole other tangent. But I just want to encourage you this morning. Think about your purpose. Look at the Easter story. Look at the example that Jesus taught through his life and his willingness to give up his life for us. There was purpose from the beginning. There's purpose in your beginning, in your end. There's purpose in every day in between. God didn't make mistakes. He's got you. You have a purpose. and he knows what he's doing with that. Let's leave it there, and I'll be back soon. All right, enjoy this song, guys. Welcome back, Coasties. That was Believe For It by CC Winans. Welcome to Rhema CC. Welcome to Sunday mornings, guys. Hope you're having a beautiful one. I mean that. Genuinely, I do. My name is Lindy, and I am your Sunday morning host each Sunday. Funny that, isn't it? Sunday morning host on a Sunday. Weird. Whew, strange, very thought-provoking stuff there. But anyway, guys, I genuinely do mean, I hope you're having a good one. Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed Greg Laurie. He's always good to listen to. I happen to say, just easy stuff to listen to. I think he just makes sense. It's just, yeah, there's some good stuff out there. Anyway, guys, you might be, if we think about our legacy builders, you might be wondering why legacy builders are so important, and honestly, why I've been asking you to consider becoming one. Well, if you think of it this way, if you became a legacy builder with, just say giving $3 a day. If we round that up, it's about $100 a month, and that's over $1,000 less that we then need to raise through our major appeals each year. So if, say, 100 people become $3 a day legacy builders, that's a massive $100,000 less that has to come through appeals, which is huge. It'll make a huge, huge difference. So really, we're just trying to reduce our reliance on big appeals and instead have a more sort of even and sustainable income right throughout the year. Legacy Builders is obviously part of that. So while you're giving, I can't get my tongue all twisted here, while your regular giving builds a legacy for the future generations, and that's obviously what we're trying to do, is look ahead, we're also trying to, make things easier for now. Let's keep it in the present. I know obviously that not everyone can commit to $100 a month, but if you can do 50, you can do 30, anything you can offer is, it's totally up to you. We would just appreciate it. So become a legacy builder today. Give us a call on 4367-4042 or visit rhema.cc, and we would love to hear from you guys. Yeah, it all helps. It really, really does. All right, we are talking purpose today, guys. That's a big one, isn't it? How do you start with that? We've been talking about the Easter story, well, kind of, and obviously looking at the life of Jesus and the fact that he was born for purpose. And ultimately, you and I are born for purpose as well. Sometimes we don't know what that purpose is. Sometimes we feel like we do have that purpose, but other people might not get it. Sometimes we have that purpose and people do get it. It's a bit of a weird one because it's a very individual experience for all of us. But when we look at the story of Jesus and we look at how much people did not understand him in his time, he knew his purpose. He knew what he was there for. He knew that even if you look at we talked about this a few weeks ago actually, when we're looking at the story of the wedding where Jesus performed his first miracle. He turned to his mum and said, it's not my time yet. What are you looking at me for? Obviously not in those words, but that was the general gist of what he was saying is I know you want me to do this, but if you do that, I'm going to start to reveal myself in terms of who I am and the purpose of what God has designed me for. And that means the days, that things are closing in. People will start to see who I am and they're going to turn on me, and it's going to get bumpy. And you may experience that yourself. You may experience similar sort of feelings, apprehensions with, as you start to work out that this is a path or whatever the path is that God has put you on, and the things that he's questioning you about, and the missions that he might be calling you to. You might be looking at becoming a missionary, going overseas. You might be looking at doing missions over here. You might be looking at doing something that's a little bit out of the ordinary that people might just go, what on earth is going on there? Or you may be still just sitting in this moment of, I don't know, God. I don't know what your purpose for me is. Let me just assure you, Jesus' purpose was this. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. That is the core of everything that we see when we look at Jesus' life. He was there for a purpose for us. I want to throw a few more verses at you, and then I want to go into one other particular verse that sort of struck me as well, in addition to the deepest level. Luke 19:10, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. Mark 16:15, and he said to them, go into all the world and proclaim the gospel to the whole creation. John 20:21, Jesus said to them again, peace be with you, as the Father has sent me, even so I am sending you. And if we look at John 17:23, I in them, I in them and you in me, that they may become perfectly one, so that the world may know that you sent me and loved them, even as you loved me. John 5:24, truly, truly I say to you, whoever hears my word and believes him who sent me has eternal life. He does not come into judgment, but has passed from death to life. Jesus' constant reminder that there is purpose to believing in him just echoes over and over and over. Matthew 15:24, he answered, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. There are just so many Bible verses that you can sit on to try and draw on or to really reflect on the purpose of Jesus. One that I haven't, I'm just reading now, that I'll just take a moment to process myself. Isaiah 52:7. So this obviously is coming from the beginning of the Bible. So it's the Old Testament. There's a few here from Old Testament here. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news, who publishes peace, who brings good news of happiness, who publishes salvation, who says to Zion, your God reigns. There is something in that for us to take on board. Are we doing that? Are we declaring, the truth of God and how majestic he is, how awesome he is? I will end with this. No, I'll give you two more actually. Romans 10:15. And how are they to preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful the feet of those who preach the good news. Acts 13:47. For so the Lord has commanded us, saying, I have made you a light for the Gentiles, that you may bring salvation to the ends of the earth. We are seeing in these Bible verses a reflection of that purpose that we have. We are to go out. We are to go out and share God's love with those who need to hear it. I just want to keep going. There are just so many verses here. 1 Corinthians 13:2. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains but have not love, I am nothing. Love needs to go hand in hand with purpose. In the Christian context, we need to remember to love. If we are seeking purpose for ourselves, seeking purposes for our churches, for the churches as a whole, if we are looking for abilities but we don't love, then it's meaningless. It comes from nothing. There's nothing in it. There's no context to it. There's nothing that gives it that really, that grit, that really, love is going to speak volumes. And we, as a people of faith, we might be driving and be driven by a need to find purpose, but if we don't remember the aspect of love, it's worth nothing anyway. There's just so much in this today, guys. It's a big one because there's so many different sort of thought processes going at the one time. But I want to just bring back to what I was going to end with in this little section here. And this is our purpose. Jesus showed us his purpose. He showed us that sometimes people won't get us when we are trying to live out our own individual purpose. But this is what he has to say about us. Jesus was sent by his Father, obviously, to us to proclaim good news to the poor, freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour. Now, this is kind of, it's all, if we look at Luke 4:18 to 19, we are called to do this sort of thing too. Proclaim the good news to the poor, that there's hope. We are to, be ambassadors or to be champions, if you like, of the freedom for prisoners, whether that's an emotional, it could be an emotional bondage, or it could be something that is literally a prisoner. Freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind. We are to believe when they can't believe, when they can't see things yet for themselves. We are to be there to speak up. These are the things that Jesus did. So our purpose should be the same. We are there to speak up for those who are oppressed, who are belittled, who are made to feel they are nothing. And we are to proclaim hope for when he returns. There's our purpose. If we can't find a purpose in our everyday right now, this is a beautiful way for us to just zoom in on what God is calling of us as individuals and as a church. Let's keep being bold, and let's be bold over the Easter period especially. Speak hope, speak life, speak truth, speak the knowledge that Jesus is the way. He is the truth, he is the life. I'm going to leave it there, and we'll tie things up soon. All right, guys, see you soon. And that was grace on top of grace. Good morning, guys. Welcome to Rhema CC. Hope you're having a beautiful Sunday morning. I know I said it before, but it is a great opportunity to get up and celebrate the fact that it's another week done, or that you've got another week to come. That's another great promise. I think there's some promises in all things. We've got lots to be thankful for. I'm sure there are things you can look back during a week and think, oh, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. And even if you're in a bit of a rough spot at the moment, there are still glimmers of things you can be thankful for. Let me just, think about the things that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for wisdom. I'm grateful for moments with my kids, with my grandson. I'm grateful for Easter coming up. I'm grateful for, all sorts of things. I'm grateful for school holidays. I might not say that after about, day 2, day 3. But I am looking forward to having some time with my kids. I actually hope that I can... it's going to be a full house. Let's just say that. It's going to be a full house. And our house is not overly huge, so it can get a little bit like, okay, we're living on top of each other for a bit. But I honestly am looking forward to no routine for a little while. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for just being able to hang out with them because I do miss them. As silly as that sounds. I know they come home and they're only at school a few hours a day, but I do miss them when they're at school. But yeah, it's been a pretty special week this week. Lots of cool things have happened. So I'm thankful for the last week, and I'm looking forward to the week to come. Hope you're feeling the same way, guys. I know that there's a lot of people out there. They're out there. Let me just get that correct for a moment there. I know that there's a lot of people out there that are hurting and in pretty rough spots. But there is hope, I can assure you. There really is. God is a God of love. He's a God of joy. He's a God of peace. He's a God of kindness. And he absolutely is a God of hope. So just keep clinging to him and he will provide a way forward for you. He always does. Sometimes we have to look harder to find it, but he does. He looks out for us. So that is it's just so comforting to know we've got that. Guys, we've been talking about purpose today. We've been talking about it from a few different angles. We've been talking about it, obviously, looking at Jesus' life and the fact that he knew that he had purpose from the beginning. He knew why he was coming. He knew why he was going to be here. He knew why he was going to die, and he knew that he was going to conquer death. He knew it all. His purpose was to show the world that how they had been doing things didn't need to continue. He was also showing us that culture and society have our own platforms or our own ways of doing things. He shook that up in the life that he lived. He sort of stirred the pot, but in a really good way. He would kind of confront things that needed to be confronted. He'd call out behaviours that needed to be called out. And he offered hope that we can have an everlasting life. And that is obviously through him. Through the knowledge that we don't have it all together, he does. And he is that in between when we need to start again. And honestly, guys, I don't know how people do it I don't know how they do life without faith. I really just don't know. To me, that just seems so two-dimensional. I'm like, I can't comprehend trying to do that. I've done it, I guess, and I'm not interested. I'm like, no, I just know I can't do it without God. That is a very, absolute truth. There's some serious truth to that. So if you are looking, honestly, it's a good way to go. Highly recommend it. If you are looking at Christianity from the outside going, what is this stuff? I can highly recommend it myself. I'll give a big tick of approval. And yeah, if you want to know more, there's plenty of pastors in the area that can help you with that. Obviously, Rhema here, we've got a lot of resources here that are constantly available to you 24/7. Both obviously here on this radio, but also we've got the app, so you can look up all sorts of articles there. There's a lot of good stuff that you have access to, even just through us here at Rhema. But yeah, God is definitely, he loves you. And I want to assure you of that. And I want to assure you that he has purpose in you. He has purpose in who you are. He has purpose in the timing of you being alive. He has purpose in the season that you're in this very moment. I think I've had a few moments this week where the need to look for purpose has been a real focus in how I've had to do my week. I had moments this week at Hope Cottage where, when you go into a prayer and then suddenly you start to pray stuff that you didn't realise you're even wanting to pray about. But I found myself praying for purpose. Not for me personally, well, I guess that too, but we're praying for Hope Cottage, which is another organisation that I'm involved with. But I was praying specifically for the purpose of not just being a place for people to come. That again is so two-dimensional. We obviously gladly feed them. We gladly offer groceries to be able to just support them. We do, obviously, in our case, our setup is a little bit different to other places. So we have some stuff that's free and some stuff that's really, really cheap groceries, because you have a lot of people who they want to feel like they've contributed, that they're not, I guess it's a sense of independence, I guess the sense of empowerment. So we have very, very cheap groceries available to them. And that in itself is about purpose. It's about giving them purpose and feeling like, okay, I can still contribute. Even if things are tight, I can still do this. And if they're obviously having a rough week, we're happy to hand them over and say, take them, it's yours, it's a gift. But that is, in the scheme of things, so two-dimensional. Because why are we there? This is what the questioning that I had in my prayer. Why are we there if it's not about seeing God's love flourish through those dimensions? And that's just one aspect of my life. Now, you guys you probably go to work. You probably have family who you're connected with. You probably have neighbours who are around. Those highs and buys to neighbours, they're lovely. They're great. It's great to acknowledge that you've got neighbours around and to be able to care for them. But what's missing? What's the fundamental stuff? Now, I don't mean that there is a need to pull out the Bible and start beating someone across the head saying, you must believe this. I am absolutely against the whole idea of pushing. I just think that's not what Jesus was about. He wasn't about forcing people to believe in him and the hope of him, but he wanted that for them. Now, that's where the wisdom and the discernment and the willingness to listen with an open ear to God and to hear how to do those things, how to create those modalities that do work. Now, I talked before, you might have been listening earlier this morning, I was talking about in counselling, if I'm going for a job interview, that was just an example I used, that I'm most likely to be asked about the modalities that I might draw on and the way that I'm going to do stuff. And I guess that's the difference between doing things from a secular perspective and doing it from a spiritual perspective, is that when we listen and we are forced to fine-tune our response to God's purpose for us in a moment, in that very moment, like the context will be different for all of us, but when we are forced to fine-tune and listen with intent, the modalities that we might do that might be totally different to what we're used to. They might be something that we have just had to just learn ourselves in the moment. They might be things that we've pulled out from 30 years ago we didn't know we'd still held on to as a way of doing it. But my point is, when we are loving as actively as we're supposed to, with purpose, with intent, with showing our neighbours, with our it is our spouse too, it could be family, it could be friends who don't have a faith or who are weak in their faith. Our ways of doing that, we can talk and we can talk and we can talk. But we looked at scripture before, and obviously loving is the first thing we need to do, is be loving, to listen with intent, to be open to the purpose that God has for us in that moment. I really hope this is making sense, because I'm sitting here trying to process it myself as I'm talking to you guys. But I guess what I'm saying is we are forced to consider how we're doing stuff, how we're meeting needs, and whether or not we're just doing it to tick boxes, or whether we're doing it with a heart that says, I love God. I love him, I serve him, I am his. And that's a very individual thing that every one of us have to come across at some point. We have to sort of work through ourselves. But as a church, whether it's our own individual, where we meet each Sunday, or the church, why are we doing what we're doing? And is it drenched in love? That's the kind of thing that God is looking from us. Guys, I pray that as we get close to Easter, I can't talk, we, all of us, are consumed by these thoughts. Why are we doing what we are doing, and are we doing it well? Now, this is not to give ourselves a 0 to 10, tick the list and make sure we're right up there doing 10. This is a check-in. This is how are we doing it? Why are we doing it? And is God at the center of everything? My prayer for you guys is that you feel him, you experience him, and that you flourish so beautifully that every person around you says, there's something different going on here. And that you are freely and openly and without hesitation, able to mention the name Jesus, because he is a God that, we want to share. Jesus is my kids used to joke. They used to say that when they were doing, scriptural sort of classes, I can't think what they actually called it at school, but it was like Christian living, or I don't even know I can't think. But, they used to just say Jesus is the answer for all the questions. And we used to have a giggle over it. But honestly, if so many of our family and friends who don't know Jesus actually did, a lot of the problems would be less, or they'd be less intense, or they'd be less of a journey to get back to an easier life. Keep sharing Jesus as best as you can. Sure, talk openly, be respectful, obviously. Talk openly, share Jesus, and share the fact that he is hope and he is love. He's the ultimate love. Use your words, use your thoughts, use your actions, and let's love this community big time. All right, guys, purpose. There it is. All right, I'm out of here. Have a super duper week. I'll be back here next Sunday, Easter Sunday at that. Have a beautiful one. I'll see you then. Bye, guys.